Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is your host Carmina, astrologer, card reader, and human design practitioner. And today we have the wonderful honor and pleasure to have with us Dr. Arjun Pai, who's a very keen, very thorough researcher of astrology, and he is widely known for his expertise and his research in the field of Nakshatras. So thank you, Dr. Pai, for joining us today.
Namaste, and thank you, Carmina, for having me on your esteemed channel. So it's such a pleasure to come and discuss about topics that I'm very, very, very interested in. So thank you again for having me on your channel.
The pleasure is all ours. So, Dr. Pai, how did you come across Nakshatras? What sparked your interest in Nakshatras? When was that moment when you were like, I can't stop studying this topic?
Yeah, that's a good question. And everybody asks me that question. I have to say to everybody, I didn't start with Nakshatras first. I've always been interested in astrology. Right from my younger days, very young. So my first book, I think, in astrology, which I picked up, was on Western astrology. It was written, and my uncle was, he was not an astrologer, he was not a practicing astrologer, but he was a very keen enthusiast, and he learned astrology. So whenever I went to his home, he had a huge collection of books, and most of them were Western because he was reading Western astrology. And I remember my first book that he lent me, he let me borrow the book. It was by Alan Leo. Okay, I don't know whether many people know about Alan Leo, but that was my first book that I had on Western astrology. So that's where my journey started. And then for many years, I was more interested in sciences like numerology, palmistry, and also Vastu, the science of spaces. That was my primary interest when I was younger. And I used to keenly observe all the transits and all of these things. And I was, when I grew up and when I was doing my PhD, 15 years ago, or rather, I think it's 17 years ago when I started my PhD. So I started my PhD 15 years ago, PhD. Master's was 17 years ago. So that's when my interest, because as a researcher, I was going deeper and deeper into understanding, but I didn't know anything about Nakshatras then. I was just listening to, reading books and getting to know more about grahas and the karakattvas, the significations. But, what happened is I did many forms of astrology. First, I think I went to KP, and I didn't have a teacher, so I tried to learn KP, Krishnamurti Paddhati, on my own. And I found it a little bit confusing because Krishnamurti Paddhati needs to be studied with a teacher or a guru. And that's when many of your doubts would be clarified. So I moved from that to Parashari, and I was doing a lot of Parashari astrology. I mean, studying, purely studying. And after that, I went into Jaimini. I took a course by K.N. Rao Sahab, the great Shri K.N. Rao Sahab. He did a course, a 2-day course. So I went and, attended that course. So Jaimini was of interest for me for very little time. Then, astonishingly, I went from there to Nadi. So I started reading a lot about Nadis, and I became very good with Nadis, through mentorship and through scholarship. So it was great to know about Nadis, but I didn't get the essence because Nadis are very broad range. And then, after Nadis, I have also dabbled around a little bit with the Lal Kitab. And I feel Lal Kitab is one of the best, forms of astrology. It's a more recent form. And many of them look at it only from a remedial measure.
Yes.
But what I see is there is so much of correlation that you see with planets that he has given, the teacher. I found that was very fascinating because the way you can connect Nadi and Lal Kitab, it's fascinating. But when I was doing Lal Kitab, that's when I came across Nakshatras, and I started with, the first book that I read was by K.T. Subhakaran. He had 2 volumes of Nakshatras. So
I
I
also
started.
read that book. It was my first Nakshatra book. I think maybe it's one of the most famous ones.
Exactly. And fortunate that I met him a couple of months ago. I went to his home and I met him,
Wow.
and such a humble guy. And he says, he didn't study Nakshatras, it just came to him, and he doesn't follow Nakshatras anymore. So that was only for the period that he wrote the book.
Wow.
That's very, very fascinating for me. I sat with him for about 2 hours. We discussed. He's very good in Rudraksh now. He's a authority in Rudrakshas, the spiritual beads that you're talking about, the holy beads. So that's where I started my journey, but I couldn't understand much about Nakshatras from the book because it was quite exhaustive and very resourceful, but there was too much of information. Then I remember reading the book by Pandit Sanjay Rath, Brahat Nakshatras. That was an excellent book. Very thorough, very exhaustive. But again, I felt that, that book had too much of information. For a beginner, it would be very difficult to start. So my Nakshatra journey actually started when I started reading the book by Prash Trivedi, the 27 Celestial Portals. So that was an excellent book. I said, this was great. He has summarized the whole concepts of Nakshatras beautifully. Of course, then, I was also influenced by the books written by Viktikara ji on, 27 Nakshatras and 27 deities, devatas. So that was an excellent book, but it was more on the concepts of understanding the mythology. I think that was very good. Also, I would say I've read books by Comilla Sutton, excellent book by Comilla Sutton. Some work which was also given on Nakshatras by James Kelleher. So I was reading a lot of books and from a lot of authors. But the real interest came when I started, understanding and teaching Nakshatras. When you teach something, that's when you get more involved with it. So my journey started with teaching. I think if you really have to understand something, the best way to do it is to start teaching it. And for 1 year, I taught Nakshatra course for free for students, for free, completely free. I used to travel, either ways in Mumbai, 1.5 hours by trains, local trains, and go and teach them. But then I saw that whatever was given for people, which was given to them for free, there were no takers. Unfortunate. So much of information, so much of knowledge that I was, gathering from various sources, and I was presenting to them. But I said nobody was interested, actually. Everybody wanted the notes. Everybody wanted just the cream, but nobody wanted to do research. And the same course started teaching them, and I started asking them for a fee. Then people started saying, oh, this is great knowledge. It was the same course that I was teaching for free. That's how it started. Any knowledge which is very great, which is given for free, I've seen, I did for 1 year. Mm-hmm. 1 year, every Sunday, I used to start teaching them. But people, there were people who were interested, but there were people who, people would come, people wouldn't come. So there was no continuity. So that's how I think I went deeper and deeper, and that's how I started getting. And then we had the team which was formed from my classes that I did. We started doing research together. So I learned a lot from my students, my peers, and also from doing consultations lately. So it's a lifelong journey. It never ends. You never can say, this is enough on Nakshatra.
Yes, and also like what you said, I think is very important. Like by teaching something, also you get challenged by the questions of your students. So then you think about it more, you get more in depth. So wonderful observation.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask you, okay, let's get like into the nakshatras. What is, in your opinion, the difference between the consciousness of the nakshatras and the consciousness of the grahas?
Now, this is a very, very interesting question, Carmina. I would like to take a little bit of time for people to really understand, because people have not understood what are grahas. I would call them not planets, I call them grahas, because planets are just celestial objects. Grahas means seizers. They are grasping something, and then they're transmitting them. So for that, you really have to know, I don't think many people have gone and delved into Navagraha Suktam. I mean, there are many verses in Rig Veda and also Atharvana Veda, which is Atharva Veda, we call it. So on these Navagrahas. So these are beautiful verses, and people have not even paid attention. People are looking at only one side of the aspect. So let me teach you what I've understood, and this is my interpretation. And of course, many interpretations people would have with respect to grahas and navagraha, and also with nakshatras. But let me talk first with the Navagraha system from the Navagraha Suktam. Now, let me recite to you this mantra on Surya from this Navagraha Suktam. Why I'm reciting this is it's important for you to understand how the Navagraha Suktam has been divided. Okay? I'm not a Sanskrit scholar or a Pandit, so please forgive me for any mispronunciation, but let me try my best because I've learned this Navagraha Suktam. So let me just do the Navagraha Suktam for the sun god. Okay?
Yes, please do.
Satyena rajasa vartamano niveshayan amritam martyam cha hiranyayena savitaratena devo yati bhuvana Agnim dhutam vrinimahe hotaram vishvavedasam asya yagnasya sukrutum esha pashupati pashunam chatushpada mutaja dvipadam nishkritoyam niyam bhagametu rajasposha yajamanasya santu adidevata pratyadidevata sahita adityaya namaha. This is the Navagraha Suktam for the sun god. It's a recitation, and you have the same thing for the other grahas as well. Now, what people have not understood is we have always looked at the Navagrahas as Surya, Aditya. These are the names which we find. Now, in this verse, the first verse was for the deity or the devata, which is Savita, which is again the deity associated with Hasta Nakshatra. And the second verse that you see in this Navagraha Suktam for the sun god is a reference to Agni, the fire god, the deified fire. And the third verse is to Pashupati. Pashupati is nothing but Rudra or Shiva. Pashupati means the lord of the Pashus, the animals. And in this verse, in the end, it says, Adi Devata Pratyadi Devata Sahitaya Adityaya Namaha, which means you also have to understand the Adi Devata and the Pratyadi Devata with Aditya. Now, let me explain this to you further by just taking a slide, and I'll explain this. Why? Because this is the ode to the 9 planets or the 9 grahas, what we call them. Okay? Let me just show you what is the consciousness that you see with, let me share my screen. Now, Navagraha Suktam, as I said, comes from various verses from Rig Veda and Atharvana Veda. This is ode to the 9 grahas. Okay. Now, and when you understand, if you want to understand the consciousness of the Navagrahas, you have to understand this Suktam, which is this ode. Why? I have put a table here. This is a supreme table. I've consolidated everything. So Devata means the deity. So for the sun, the Devata is Aditya. Sun is just a celestial object. It's just like, you know what we say, the moon is a celestial object, right? In the space. But there is a divinity associated with that celestial object, and the divinity resides with the deity, Devata, we call it. So mostly this operates at the physical plane. The Devata, the consciousness of the Devata is on the physical plane. Then we have Adi Devata, which means who's the overruler of that planet. Overruler is Agni, I said, the fire god. And at the soul level, we have the deity who is Pashupati, which means Shiva, who is the supreme god. Now, what we understand is we look at a Navagraha and we say, oh, these are the Karakattvas, these are, but what we don't understand is, let's take an organizational hierarchy, okay? To have a problem with a Graha, let us say, we say this Graha is weak in my chart. Now, there are so many factors to look at the weak and what is strength. I'm not going there, but I'm just saying, let's assume that one planet is weak. Now, in an organization, if I have a problem in an organization, will I go to the CEO of the organization? Do I approach the CEO or the managing director? Or do I approach the vice president of that organization? Or will I go to somebody like a manager or a senior manager? So what happens is we go to the senior manager we present our problem at the lower level. And if it is not being resolved at that level, then we escalate the problem, isn't it? So, but what is happening today is we all want to go to the top. We want to go directly to the CEO. But the CEO says, we have a hierarchy, we have a structure here. If this is not being resolved in the structure, then you come to me. So he's going to demote that application down. He's going to put the application is going to go down again, the value chain. So you have to come up the value chain. So the consciousness that you have to understand doesn't rely only with Aditya or the sun god. It also has something to do with Agni, because he works at the mental plane, and then Pashupati, which is Shiva, who operates, and that too specifically it is mentioned Pashupati. It's not all other forms of Shiva. They've said Pashupati. Pashu means the lord of the animals and birds. Pashu, the living creatures. He's the divine father. So understand the Adi Devata here creates the unions, the yogas in the chart. And he enhances the positive effects of the Navagraha through the Navagraha Sutram. That's what we understand. So which means if you're going through a major period of that planet, minor period of that planet, and which is forming a specific union with another important, if you want to enhance that, then you have to go to the Adi Devata. You just can't go to the Devata, which is Aditya. Yes, at the physical level, he'll give you vitality, he'll give you, strength, he'll give you good health and all of that, because sun is known to give you health. But what are the unions that are being formed? And if you have to unlock those, then you have to go to the Adi Devata. He is the next level. And if you want to reduce the afflictions and the sufferings that the planet is giving, then you have to go to the Pratyadi Devata. But you cannot jump to the Pratyadi Devata alone to elevate your sufferings, because there is a hierarchy. You have to do the mantras and you have to do the hierarchy. Only then you can go there. Otherwise, you're jumping. Imagine, would you like, if somebody is reporting to you, would you like that, somebody supersedes you and goes straight to the head boss, or to your senior manager, or to somebody like a vice president?
Yes. This is really fascinating what you are explaining, and also reminds me of homeopathy and the levels of disease, like the physical body, the emotional, the mental. So, disease also settles in first through the physical and then deeper. And so does the cure, I guess. You have to take it layer by layer. So it's really fascinating. Yeah. Please go ahead.
So this is the consciousness, Carmina. You're right. You don't start working at the topmost layer, because the two layers below it are not being healed. So if you really want to understand the consciousness, then you have to understand this chart. And this is from Navagraha Suktam. So for every deity, we say for moon, it's Soma. Okay. And for the Adi Devata is Apas or Apha, the water goddess. And the Pratyadi Devata is Gauri, who is the spouse of Pashupati, supreme goddess. So for everything, there is a hierarchy there. So we forget this consciousness which resides with these three layers. We are just going and saying, oh, do a remedy for sun. Let's do a remedy for Rahu. But Rahu has a hierarchy there. The North Node has a hierarchy. So unless you understand the hierarchy, I think some of them get locked in this whole process, which level to go and when to go and how to proceed. So understand the consciousness of the grahas resides with these three deities. You can't, it is like a consciousness which, whenever we talk about consciousness, it is an entity all together. We just can't go straight. So this is what I understand from the Navagraha. This is my understanding from the Navagraha Suktam. Many of us will still operate at the deity level, which is only the physical plane. But nobody is trying to move to the higher levels to address them. So unless you understand even Shukra, you say Venus. Indrani, it is said in the Shuktam, it's Indrani, who is the queen of the goddess. She is the spouse or the consort of Indra, the king of the gods. So unless you have a connection with this level, then I don't think you will understand the consciousness of the grahas. Have you heard this anywhere before?
I personally have never heard this before, so it's really revelating.
So this is the consciousness of the grahas. If you have to understand, you have to understand each of those deities and what is their role. Because Pratyati Devata is the one who can give you, who can make you free from the affliction or reduce the affliction or remove those sufferings. The Devata is very important for forming those unions. You might have a Buddhaditya yoga, for example, or a Gajakeshari yoga. There are so many yogas. But if that yoga has to fructify and if that yoga has to manifest, then you have to go to the Adidevata. Otherwise, you are still superficially working at the physical plane. So understand this. This is the consciousness of the Navagrahas. That's why I wanted to recite this sloka for the sun, because unless you understand the three facets of it, you will not understand the consciousness of the grahas. Nakshatras are there are three different layers to it. And many of us, we superimpose and we think one layer is fixed with the other layer. No, the layers are not fixed, which means you have Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, Om, Bhur. Bhur means on the earth plane. On the earth plane, I would probably dissect the earth plane into bhavas. See, we should never use the word houses when you're using Vedic astrology. Why I say that is, there is a difference between a bhava and a house. House means a space, a region, right? Bhava, bhav means mood. It's the essence, how you feel. So I feel Aries bhav, or I feel, Cancer, or Karka bhav. It's the essence. It's a watery sign. All of the tattvas, the elements and the essence is more important to be felt rather than saying, I am an Aries, I am, this and that. What is your feeling? You can feel, when you are an Aries ascendant or an Aries moon, you can still feel Aquarius. You might still feel Sagittarius, because you will feel the essence throughout the day with all the rashis. It's not one rashi. So don't define yourself and fix yourself to something, because then you're fixing your mind. You are like the horse. You know what the horses they do? They put something around the eyes of the horses. Have you seen horses?
Yes.
Yeah, the glasses. Because if you don't put those glasses, then they will run in every direction. So they want the rider wants that they focus on the street, on the path. That's why. So today we have to put these and we have to look. Yes, I'm not saying don't remove. You remove them, but I'm saying try to focus. That is the main thing we are losing. So on the earth plane, we are looking at the bhavas. Bhavas is the essence. That's why we have 12 divisions and the 12 bhavas. Okay. Now, when you look at the bhavas, people have not understood the bhavas and people have associated them also with the zodiac. Now, I'm not going into any of the debate which the sidereal or tropical, because see, every system will work as long as you have faith. People do not have faith and people are confused, because if I have faith in whatever I do, then it's definitely going to work, because it's not a normal science. It works on faith, and you can miserably fail in both the systems. That doesn't mean that one system is better than the other. We need to understand that there is value in all the systems. It's how you have trained your mind to read, you will read it. And much of them, I will tell you, for astrologers, it doesn't really matter what Rashi it is. They have developed a technique. It comes to them after reading many charts. It comes naturally. You don't have to really look at what, okay. But let me tell you, the essence of the Rashis, which people have not understood, is, this is my interpretation. Of course, other people will have other views. I can say that this is purely my interpretation. Rashis are a collection of different essences or different parts. And Rashi means it's something together, and it's in the space in the sky, yes. But Rashi has some connection with Shiva. And that's why I want to bring to a point. I know it will complicate for many of you viewers who have not been good with, and so I won't go very deep into it. You have to understand Jyotirlinga. Have you heard of Jyotirlinga?
No.
Okay. Jyotirlinga means there are 12 Jyotirlingas in India. Only 12. Jyotirlinga means it's Shiva's essence, which is divided into 12 parts. Each of the Jyotirlinga in India, there are 12 energy vortexes or portals where you go to activate your energy. For example, your Atma Karaka. One simple, there are many ways of looking at. If you're Atma Karaka, which means the planet with the highest degree, it is sitting in a particular Rashi in the Navamsha, then there is connection with a particular temple, energy vortex, an energy portal, where you have to go to awaken your Jyotir. Jyotir means a light, a lamp. It's a soul's purpose. So that masculine energy of the Jyotirling, which is there, they are activating. And each of them are connected to you'll be very surprised. They're all connected to the exaltation points of the particular Navagrahas. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is fascinating. Nobody, people know about this. The ancient people know about this. But this is the activation. For example, I'll give you an example. I know many of you will not understand, just understand this. For Aries, Atmakaraka, who's in the Navamsha, Atmakaraka is going into Aries, they have to go to Rameshwaram. Eshwaram. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's connected to Lord Sri Ram, who is from the Solar dynasty. That's where the sun gets exalted. So Rameshwaram is in the southern part of India, in Tamil Nadu. That's where, Sri Ram, before he went into Lanka with the Titanic king Ravana to slay him, and also his abducted wife to bring her back, he worshipped a Shiva Linga made from sand. And that becomes Rameshwaram. For Taurus, it is Somanath, Soma. Again, the word Soma. Taurus is where moon gets exalted. So likewise, you have different places. For Saturn, which Rashi does the Saturn gets exalted in? Libra. Okay, that's where it's called as Mahakaleshwar. That's the Jyotirlinga for going and activating your Atmakaraka, your soul's purpose. So it is Mahakaleshwar. Kal means Saturn. Mahakaleshwar. He is the overlord of everybody. Time. So there is a connection very strongly, and there are only 12. Why there are not 13? Why are there not 15? Which means somewhere, and these are there for thousands of years, energy vortexes. So Virgo, Mallikarjuna, these are temples, these are places where you have to go and activate. So somebody who has Mercury there, we have to go and activate that. So understand, the Rashi system was known, but it was hidden. Yes. And they knew how you could activate that through going through this masculine Shiva temples, and that's why they call it Jyotirlinga. So for all your viewers who do not know, you can go and study about Jyotirlinga. Okay?
Yes.
So each of the temples, there are important temples you can go and visit, and you can activate that. Okay? Now, bhavas. We're talking about bhavas. Well, I'll come to nakshatras. But now there is another layer to it, which nobody tells you. Why do you say Navamsha? There are 9 parts to it, right? There are 9 parts to Rashi. We call it Navamsha, which means 9 parts. Now, for the Jyotirlinga, I explained to you Rashi, there are only 9 parts. Why 9 parts? And then you have to understand there is another important concept, which I will not delve again very deep into. Navaratri. Have you heard of Navaratri? The 9 nights of Devi, Parvati. So I know people do not know. So it's the Shakti, it's the feminine 9 parts that nobody has ever, gone in deeper. There are only 9 nights and there are only 9 Devis, because these are the 9 parts. Each of those 9 parts are connected with some part, and I will just show you, I won't go deeper into it, but people have to understand how you activate a certain part of your zone.
Dr. Pai, can I ask you, because you were talking about Rashi, so in my knowledge, Rashi means heap or bundle of light. So Ra, can it be Ra from Ram and Shi from Shiva? Can it also be like that, or is it too far-fetched? Who knows?
It can be Ra from Rahu and Shi from Shiki, which is Ketu. Shiki means Ketu.
Ah, so it can be, yeah.
It can be anything. We do not know. Ra, Shi. Okay.
Yeah.
Ra from Rahu and Shi from Shiki. Shiki means another name for Ketu.
Yes. Thank you.
So if you really want to understand how to activate, then you have to understand the 9 deities. See, one, you have the masculine, I told you, the Rashi. Now the 9 divisions are the 9 Shaktis, the feminine parts. So each of those parts have a very important, and we celebrate Navratra, the 9 nights here in India. So this is the order. I won't go deeper. Shailaputri, I've given you the planet which is active, which is ruling that space. So the 9 parts, 3 degrees 20. Out of 30, you have 3 degrees 20. So first 3 degrees 20 is ruled by Shailaputri, which is ruled by moon. Brahmacharini Devi, Chandraganta, Kushmanda, Skandamata, Katyayini, Kalaratri, Mahagauri, Siddhadatri. So if I want to really go, I can actually divide the zodiac like this. For example, this is Ashwini. So I just wanted to show you that how these things can be segregated. So these are the 4 deities. Each of the padas will be connected to one deity, the feminine. So I know we don't have much of time, but I could have done a full lesson on this. So you will know if a planet is falling there, which deity and which Jyotirlinga you have to go to activate. Anyway, I know for many of the Westerners, this will be something new, but I want people to look at that. Now, come to Nakshatras, Carmina. Nakshatras reside in the Swa, which means I say Om Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. Om Bhur means on the earth plane. We have the bhavas, which is the mood, okay, which defines the mood. Then we have Om Bhur, Bhuva. Bhuva means the next, it's the mid space. Mid space is where the grahas are rotating. It's a mid space. Antariksha, we call it. Okay. And then you have Swaha, Swarga. Swarga means it's the supreme abode of all the deities. That's where the Nakshatras, deities, and their abodes are. So the consciousness of the Nakshatras, which is more of a fixed element in the space, okay, it resides with the Shakti there. It's a seed frequency. See, what I want to say is that when you come to it, it can create harmonic resonance with the graha, okay, or it could be also sometimes constructive interference, because it's like a tuning fork. Do you know what is a tuning fork?
Yes, yes, a tuning fork. I do know. Yeah.
So when a tuning fork, when you bring two tuning forks together, which has the same resonance, it will create, so it is transmitting the frequency. So if I really have to tell about the consciousness of nakshatras, I can put it in a very simple manner, in a way of for people to understand. Imagine you have a power generation center, okay, where the power is generated. Okay, we have the hydraulic power generation centers, right? It's very high voltage. But what happens then? We have transmitters, transformers. You know what is transformers? They bring the high voltage. Before they come to your home, they go through many levels of transformation. And then they bring the light to your home, or you have a light or a fan which is going, right? So the light, what you see, if it is yellow, that means it has been superimposed with something like a Jupiter. I can see, somebody is.
It's my daughter. She's just.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Yeah, yes. She was, a bit interested in what I was doing. So she's gonna join us here a bit.
Definitely, she is. I can see, she's very enthusiastic about this whole thing. Anyway, yes. So understand there is a high voltage thing which is happening, and then you have to transmit, right? Now the transmission lines are the grahas. The nakshatras have a shakti, they have an inherent quality, they have an inherent power. She can come and sit with you, yeah, that's fine. She is a shakti, isn't it? So she is the energy force. So the nakshatras have this inherent energy force, and the transmission is done by the grahas, because they are seizers. They absorb something and they transmit. Now when they transmit, things will change. Why? Because it depends on what graha. So if I see a red light in my house, of course, there must have been some Martian energies in the transmission line. If I see a yellow light, then it's a Jupiterian effect. So the energy source is coming from various energy sources. It might be it could be hydroelectric, it could be nuclear, or whatever, thermal. It could be wind energy. So those nakshatras are different. Wind energy is different, but the channel which is transmitting it is the grahas. And whatever you see and you feel, the light, the energy in the house is the influence of the original source and the transmission line. I know this is complex. I would take a complete class on this to people to understand, but this is the consciousness. Okay.
Yes.
I know it has to be kept very succinct, but I wanted to give this information because many people do not understand the three facets of the grahas, then the nakshatras as well. We think a nakshatra is very dormant unless there is some moving object which comes there and absorbs that energy and transmits it. It doesn't operate, but of course there is energy which is always there.
Thank you very much for that, because yes, there is a lot of confusion regarding the nakshatras. Like, what are they? Are they conscious? Are they unconscious? How are they activated? What is their strength? So thank you for bringing to light those points, and maybe in the future you will teach a class for those interested to go super in depth in this information.
Sure.
Can I ask you something else regarding the nakshatras?
Sure, please.
So, the text of Sarvato Bhadra Chakra, and there are indications there that nakshatras can form aspects with one another. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will talk about that, Carmina. I will also talk about the system of Veda in Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. And also when we look at these aspects, what is aspecting each other, you can actually see that from the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. So let me just go to the slides again and show you. I'll have to explain this to you in a very easy manner so that people do not get confused with the whole concept. Okay, I'll show you from, tell me if you can see the slides.
Yes, I can see them now.
Okay. Now, when you look at the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra, I'll come to the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra, but this is what I wanted to say is one planet creating Veda. Veda means some sort of obstruction or, inherent quality is to block the energy.
That is quite known from Kuta compatibility.
Absolutely. It comes from Kuta compatibility during marriage matching, right? Now, I started studying this and trying to see, what is the correlation there and with Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. Now, example here, I've given you the numbers and each of the nakshatras. And here I put the numbers so that you can really go and see what is creating Veda. So Ashwini Nakshatra number 1 is creating a Veda with 18, which is Jyeshtha Nakshatra. Okay, this is how you read this table. I just wanted to, clarify this for you and for your viewers. Similarly, Carmina, with the second nakshatra, which is Bharani, number 2, it's creating a Veda with number 17, which is Anuradha, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you can really see, this is how the flow is. I'm just showing you the flow. Okay, so the 10th nakshatra is forming a Veda with the 27. 10th is Magha, forming a Veda with Revati nakshatra. So with this concept, if I go to the first level, 1 with 18, 2 with 17, 3 with 16, 4 with 15. Okay, so you have Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, which are following Veda with, Jyeshtha, Anuradha, Vishaka, and Swati. So you can see here, these are the Rajasic nakshatras, what we call them. These are the Tamasic nakshatras. There are 3 segregations: Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. Similarly, this is what I'm coming from your Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. If you really see, Carmina, in the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra, here I've just drawn a line. Okay, Ashwini Nakshatra, right opposite to it is Jyeshtha Nakshatra. Bharani Nakshatra, right opposite to is Anuradha Nakshatra. You have Kritika Nakshatra, right opposite to is Vishaka Nakshatra. Rohini Nakshatra, Swati. So these are the Vedas which are formed because they fall in the different quadrants. So does this explain to you when I'm talking about this concept?
Yes, thank you. It's so nice to see this chart that you drew, this table. It makes much more sense.
Yeah. So Ashwini with Jyeshtha, Bharani with Anuradha. It's the same thing. I've just put the same thing here. 1 with 18, 2 with 17, Bharani with Anuradha, 3. So you can see that in the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the next layer. So you have 5, which is Mragashira. Now, this is the only exception you have. Mragashira, which means it has Veda from the other 2 Mars-ruled nakshatras in Vimshotri Dasha system. So you have Mragashira, which is 5, number 5, which is 14, which is Chitra, and then you have Dhanishta, 23. So you can see Rajas creating Veda with a lot of planets sitting in the Sattva region. Okay?
Yes.
So is this clear? Now you go to the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. Now you'll see this again, the same thing. Chitra forming with Ardra, okay, Mragashira, Dhanishta, Mragashira, Chitra. See, again, everything is cross. So you have Punarvasu, you have Mula with Ashwini. So Sarvato Bhadra Chakra is showing you why this is creating this. And finally, we have the last set of nakshatras which are creating Veda, the Tamasic nakshatras, which is Magha, Purva Phalguni, Uttara Phalguni, Hasta. They're all forming with the last set of nakshatras here. Again, when you go here, you see this beautiful correlation with the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra. So you have 1 Shatabhishak with Hasta, So did you understand how this is happening? Because they are all, opposite. They're opposite.
Yes.
Nakshatra in the Sarvato Bhadra Chakra scheme. Now, I want to go a little further, Carmina, for you to understand why in the Kuta system that you mentioned about marriage matching in the Kuta system, why do you think certain nakshatras are Veda? Why do you think there is a opposition for those nakshatras, right? Now, yes. I have to go and take you to this. I think you'll understand if you learned Ayurveda. The nakshatras are also divided into Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Okay. Now here what I want to show you is these are called as three doshas, three different, bodily deficiencies which can happen based on the nakshatras as well. Now, very interestingly, Ashwini and Jyeshtha are falling under the Vata. So if I am an Ashwini, okay, they are saying Jyeshtha is also Vata, but it can be a very difficult because they're falling under Vata. If my constitution and my spouse's constitutions are the same, then it can create an imbalance. It's a Nadi dosha. So you can see this correlation here. Okay?
Yes.
Also, if you go to the mythology, there could be a mythological angle which we need to still research. But let me tell you, who's the deity of Ashwini Nakshatra? The Ashwini Kumaras. Now, Ashwini Kumaras are a horse. They like to go on horses. They are, they're twin horse-headed, and so all of that. They have the equestrian thing. And Jyeshtha is Indra. Now, if you really see why mythologically they might have had a clash, is because Indra didn't want the Ashwini Kumaras to have the right to have the sacred nectar,
yes,
the elixir of immortality, which we call as Soma. He said, no, these are mortals. They are born on the earth. Ashwini Kumaras were born on the earth. So they are mortals. So Indra was trying to block them from, but later on the mythology shows that how Shavana Rishi played a very pivotal role in elevating them to demigods and giving them the right to have the Soma, which is the nectar of immortality. So obviously you can see this clash in between Ashwini and Jyeshtha. So there might be other stories as well. But do you understand there could be a mythological angle which we need to delve into? But
yes.
look at this. Bharani. You see both these, 2 and 17, Pitta. 3 and 16, which is Kritika and Vishaka, they're Kapha. So that is where I'm seeing that there could be a Veda, there could be a clash. Okay? Swati, Rohini, again, they are in the same Kapha. Okay, with this, there is only one exception that I'm seeing. See, even here you see beautifully 5, 14, 23, Pitta. Mrigashira, Chitra, Dhanishta, they're all Pitta. But there is an exception here. Exception is Ardra and Shravana. One is Vata, other is Kapha. And there is another exception here, which is Punarvasu and Uttarashada. Why this exception is coming, I'll tell you why. Because in the 28 nakshatra scheme, this exception wouldn't have come. This is 27 nakshatra scheme.
Yes, that was what I was about to ask, 28.
If there was 28, when you come to this point, then it will not create this way. It would have skipped that. So it would be a seamless thing. It could have, because now the numbers are jumbled. So that's why you see, we have skipped something, and that's why you see Ardra and Shravana are in two different sets. One is Vata, other is Kapha. And Punarvasu and Uttarashada, you see that again, different, Vata and Kapha. But rest all are perfect. You can see this. Maga Revati, Pur Falguni, Uttara Bhadrapada. Beautifully, they all match very, very well. Okay? So this is what I wanted to share with you with the Veda scheme of systems, because unless you understand why this Veda scheme must have come, there is some basis. We don't understand the basis. We just want to go and accept whatever is there. Probably would need to also understand, this categorization of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And I told you the exceptions also there. The exceptions I've shown you because we are actually, if you look at the 28 base system, maybe the exceptions will not come.
Yes, that is a very good point with the 28 nakshatra system. This was actually, and you were actually answering also another question of mine that I had, if the incompatibility Veda between nakshatras used for matchmaking reflects actually the incompatibilities between the deities, associated. So thank you for giving that example for Ashwini.
Yeah.
I have another, just like a punctual, if you have time for a couple more questions.
Sure, yeah. Please go ahead, Carmina.
Yes. So what do you think about the fact that these two, let's say, almost opposing nakshatras, Mrigashirsha and Jyeshtha, they have the deer element in common? So Jyeshtha has a deer yoni and Mrigashirsha has, symbolized by the deer. What do you think about this similarity?
Okay, symbology is a very great way of trying to study nakshatras, but I think we can go a little deeper to understand why probably Mragashira is coming there. Okay, now some of them will start looking at the opposites, and opposites are always a beautiful way to start studying the nakshatra or also studying the rashis. Why I say that is, Carmina, even in my interview when I did it with Babajit on exotic astrology, I mentioned this, that never forget this one thumb rule is 1 and 7 are complements. If one is the birth, the other is what completes birth. People call it death, okay? But I say what completes birth, what finishes birth. So one is complementing the other. Similarly, a nakshatra and the opposite nakshatra is what, if one is the lock, the other is the key. But you have to go a little bit understanding deeper. For example, why do people say Rohini Nakshatra is the most fertile part of the zodiac? We say, many people say it's a favorite nakshatra. This is very common. Favorite nakshatra of the moon god, isn't it? Now, if you really, that's beautiful. Anyway, if you really understand the deities, Carmina, you will really understand why Rohini Nakshatra is the most fertile part. And this is my interpretation, right? For which you have to understand the deities. Symbology is the next part, but first understand the deities. Now, for something to grow, if a plant has to grow, what are the ingredients we need for the plant to grow? What are the climatic conditions which produces growth of plants?
Well, sunlight, water, a good fertile soil.
Absolutely. Now, you said the right things. You said sunlight. What does sunlight give you? Heat and brightness. So one side you have Kritika Nakshatra, which is ruled by Agni, which gives you the light and the heat that is required. That's the essential criteria for something to grow. And on the other end, Mragashira is ruled by Soma, the deity associated. Soma. Soma means water. We need water. We need, heat and light and water. And in between that, what is there? Rohini. So one you have Kritika, Rohini, Mragashira. So on one side you have water, the other side you have heat and light. So in between you have the fertile soil that will help to bind these and to help growth happen. So that's why Rohini was called as the fertile. It's the, it shows a lady, reddish lady, who's ready to copulate, who's ready to create, offsprings. So that's why the fertility is coming, because of the nakshatras on each side are helping. Remember, a nakshatra is on either side is helping that nakshatra. If you start studying the system, also there is a system of studying the trine nakshatras. They are all somehow connected. So did you understand why I'm saying, just don't look at the symbology.
This explanation, I love it because it's so organic. It shows the interdependence. It's not just you focus on one thing in isolation, but you see the relationship. So it's a really beautiful way to put it.
Relationship. So when you're looking at Jesta, don't forget there is an Anuradha behind it, which is about friendliness. And there is Mula of destruction. So these qualities also are imbibed in Indra. He can be very friendly to and protect the meek and his kingdom and the subjects of his kingdom through friendship, cordiality, cooperation. But he can also play the role of a Mula, which is Niriti or destruction.
Yes, you actually telepathically answered my question, because I was going to touch on the nature. Some of them are cruel, some of them are soft and friendly, some of them are movable. So together they create this movement that is necessary for life. That, from what I understand from you. So
it's a fluidity. It's just, think about how the moon will feel when it is, moon is like the mind. Okay, let your mind be flowing in thoughts, and the thoughts are moving from Mridhu Nakshatra, going to a Tikshna Nakshatra, and then going again to a Tikshna. For example, I'm talking about Anuradha, I'm talking about Jyeshta, I'm talking about Mula. But there is a difference. I have mentioned this even to understand. See, in the Veda system, and this Veda system, I will just make one point for people to understand. See, there is Veda between Mercury Nakshatras and Ketu Nakshatras. For Magha, it is Revati. If you see the system there, you see, one Ketu Nakshatra. I'm talking about Vimshotri based system only. I'm not talking, there is Astotri, it's different. But Vimshotri based system, the Mercury Nakshatras are in Veda with the Ketu Nakshatras. It's surprising. Why? Because let me tell you, I asked this question. If you really understand Nakshatras, and if you want to superimpose, like I mentioned, first of all, I mentioned these are 3 different layers. Don't try to collate them and these are different systems. Nakshatra is a different system. Rashi is a different system. Bhavas is a different system. So you're superimposing each of them, but understand that the beautifully is wherever a nakshatra is ending and wherever a rashi is ending, that is where the Gandanta is. Okay, all others, there is a superimpose. I'm talking about the sidereal system. I'm not talking about the tropical. I'm talking about the sidereal system. Wherever, that's why they call it Gandanta. Why? Because in the original system, when the sidereal happened, when we started with studying the thing, exactly where the rashi was ending, that's where the nakshatra was ending. Because all of the other nakshatras in the sidereal, there is an overlap. Okay, so understand that. And the thing is, that's why you see a planet, when it can be an Atma Karaka. What is the Atma Karaka, Carmina?
Yeah, the soul planet to the highest degree.
Highest degree. Now, when you take ideally, in an ideal situation, okay, you can see that Atma Karaka can be only in certain nakshatras. Ideally, I'm saying. Highest degree, I'm talking about, 27 and higher. Ideally. 27 and higher. So it can be when? It can be in a sidereal system, it can be in Sun Nakshatra, it can be in Mars Nakshatras, it can be in Jupiter's Nakshatra, or it can be in Mercury's Nakshatra, ideally. And Dharakaraka, which is with the lowest degrees, it can happen only in certain nakshatras. I'm talking about 0 to 3 degrees. I'm talking about the ideal case, the lowest degree. So you see the one with the highest degree and potentially you have Sun, Mars, and Jupiter with Mercury. But Sun and Mars and Jupiter, remember, they can ideally be the host for both an Atma Karaka as well as a Dhara Karaka. But Mercury, no. Mercury can ideally be only Karaka. Do you understand why I'm saying this?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe because the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter, mutual friends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it can come between, in a sidereal system, it can come between 27 and 30 degrees in Aries, and Kritika Nakshatra, Sun, it can come through Kritika Nakshatra, Dhara Karaka, can also form at the first 3 degrees of Taurus. But in a Ketu Nakshatra, only a Dhara Karaka can come. An Atma Karaka can never come. I'm just saying ideal scenario. So you see, an ideal scenario can create, not with Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. They are mutually friends. Again, I'm saying these are my views. There is more research that needs to be done, and we need to really understand the system. Unless then, don't come to any conclusion. These are only observations I'm sharing with you. It's not a conclusion.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Maybe, the viewers who are interested in research and like serious things like that, they can apply and see how that works in the charts.
But this is advanced. I'm saying for beginners, you don't have to worry. Just, probably you can skip this section. But for somebody who wants to really give a thought. Why I'm saying is give ideal situations, give, situations where it is not ideal. Then look why probably these people are creating some Vedas. So see, I'm saying from whichever angle you look at Jyotisha, the word Vedic was very recent. It was always called as Jyotisha. people should use this word Jyotisha and not call it Vedic astrology. This is my humble opinion, because the word Vedic has come very, very recently in the last 30, 40 years. You have not heard what is Vedic astrology before. Everything comes from the Vedas. So why do you have to use specifically Vedic? So Jyotisha also has its roots through Nakshatras. If you see, originally people used to do, fire rituals, and for which they wanted the Nakshatras, they wanted the Tithis. The Rashis is there in the Upanishads later on, but what I'm trying to say is the origin. The origin was all Nakshatra-based system.
It's true. Nakshatras and deities of the Nakshatras and
deities. Yeah. Absolutely. Don't correlate them with, I have said this, don't say, Kritika is ruled by sun. That's, I think it's a correct way of trying to say that.
Only in Vimshodri Dasha.
Yeah. Only in the Vimshodri Dasha. I think we have clarified this many times, that people will still say, oh, Kritika is ruled by sun. No, but I would like to say, definitely the Triplicity Nakshatras is a great concept to learn. When you study Nakshatras from the Vimshodri system, study in Triplicities, which means Kritika, Uttara Falguni and Uttarashada, learn them together. You will get some great ways of understanding how there is a correlation there. Now, people do not understand the Saturn Nakshatras. The beauty of Saturn Nakshatras are they're all great Nakshatras. But what is Saturn? Saturn, we say it is malefic, right? We have used the word malefic. I don't want to use the word malefic or benefic. I want to say to all your viewers, use the words strict and stringent and, favorable, or we can say, positive and enhancing, or something like that.
Or you can say cruel, or, you can say cruel. Yeah.
You can say cruel or strict and stringent. I wouldn't say cruel, because cruel means not very good. You can say they're strict and stringent because they manifest something.
Yes.
Because again, when you're terming them cruel, that means that, but who is cruel? None of the grahas are cruel.
It's not necessarily like a bad thing. The way it acts is different than, a softer action, like the nakshatras. Some nakshatras are, have a way of action that is more swift. Others is more gentle, friendly.
Gentle, exactly. Friendly, manageable.
Because Venus and Jupiter can also give bad results. They can, I can,
you say for a Vimshodri based system, we say, look at all the Saturn ruled nakshatras Vimshodri. Pushya, beautiful nakshatra.
Anuradha, which is the gift.
Yeah. Then you have Anuradha, which is Mitra, which rules its friendliness. And then you have Uttara Bhadrapada. All beautiful nakshatras. So do you mean to say they are ruled by Saturn? No. They are not ruled by Saturn. Okay, for Triplicity, you can study the system. They give you beautiful, because everything is a lotus, remember. I call them, it's a pink lotus for Pushya, it's a blue lotus for Anuradha, and I say it's a white lotus for Uttara Bhadrapada. So think about it, it's a lotus. The colors are different. Carmina, any other questions for me?
I don't know how much time you have, because...
It's okay. I've made this time for this session.
Then I'm just going to ask you, do you assess the strength of the nakshatra according to the planet, or, the angle, the bhava it's in, or is there such a thing, assessing the strength of a nakshatra? And then I'm going to ask you, if there's, because I think you already kind of answered, you don't have to fixate on one most important nakshatra, like the moon nakshatra, like everything you have to take into, yes.
Yeah. Now, this is something what I have always been asked, and what I want to say is, nakshatras, don't study them in isolation. And that's the biggest mistake, because what happens whenever we do videos, we do it on a specific nakshatras, and there are certain traits, and people will say, oh, this is exactly me, right? But understand, no creature is based on a single cell. You have your liver, there are liver cells, your pancreas, pancreatic cells, you have other cells, for everything, your retina for able to receive the light. So there are cells. So the collective creation is a reality. Don't look at it in isolation. This is the first thing. But yes, of course, we do videos, we do it on particular nakshatras, because you cannot understand the totality. Look at anything holistically, because there is a symbiotic relationship with why certain people have certain nakshatras. So when you look at yourself, you are not a single entity. You are a community of different cells. And your wishes and your desires are not coming from one planet. Okay, it's a consciousness, it's a collective consciousness. Yes, but what happens is the subconscious mind is programmed in a particular manner. And largely the moon has a greater say, because why is moon is like the hard disk drive. That is how I've been taught. It's like when you are born, there is a chip which is inserted into your mind, which has the vasanas and the samskaras. Now, these are Sanskrit words. What they mean? Vasanas means, it's a past perception. It's a present consciousness of your past perceptions. It's like a coat that you're wearing from a past. Your past experiences have a bearing on your present. So how would you feel? Now, we might be sitting in the same room, but I might be feeling happy and joyous, and you might be feeling depressed, right? Because that's a vasanas. Because based on what is the environment and with whom we are and what influences we are, you might feel differently than I. So that is how the mind has been programmed. So that is a subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind can be only understood if you understand also nakshatras. And I'm giving you one. You have to reprogram your subconscious mind with your wishes and desires. And many of us will look at the moon nakshatra, wherever it is posited, and we say we have to program that nakshatra. It is right, but I'm saying you are missing a bigger point, because in the reprogramming process, you have to look at the one nakshatra before. Why I'm saying that, Carmina, is the moon has moved from one nakshatra to another nakshatra, which means it has left behind a trail. When you walk inside the house, there is a doormat. Unless you have walked on the doormat, you cannot get inside. So you have to look at the doormat also. So where the moon has just recently, which nakshatra it has transited.
So it's like the snail leaving a trail behind.
Exactly. Is the snail has left a trail, but you are now focusing only on the snail. You're not looking at the trail. Which direction it has come from? Has it come from the north? Has it come from the east or the west? Based on the position of the snail, you can say, okay, it is snail. But which direction it has come from? So you have to know the 27th nakshatra in the 27 nakshatra scheme. 27th from your moon is called Abhishek, which is for coronation. This is one of the important nakshatras you have to understand and to master, to reprogram your consciousness for your wishes and your desires. Because when you're just falling asleep, your conscious mind is disconnecting, and your first brain functions, as you fall asleep, is theta. And which is the brain function, this is what will guide you. And this theta is what is, just before you fall asleep, you're just moving backwards to that nakshatra. So I'm saying that nakshatra is important to be reprogrammed, whether you have a planet or you don't have. That is why it is called as a Abhishek nakshatra. Abhishek means it's a coronation, which coronates your moon.
That is such a fascinating perspective. And again, it's something I haven't heard before, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's
also remember.
It's also where we went. So this also connects, to, in a way, to K2, to past.
Also, Carmina, you're right. Not only the 27 nakshatra, also look at the second nakshatra, because we call it Sampat. Why? Because that is your future, which means the moon is next going to move somewhere else. So I need to connect these three nakshatras which are beside each other. Like I said, Kritika, Rohini, and Mragashira. So why is the fertility is coming? Because of the triplicity. They're supporting each other. But even their predecessors are supporting them, which means the nakshatras previous to them is supporting them. They are supporting some other nakshatra. So there is an interrelationship. So definitely look at the second nakshatra from your moon and the 27 nakshatra. Work on those areas of your life, because one is showing you where the trail of the snail was in your, how you try to explain. The other is which direction now the snail is moving, which is your mind. Now, I don't want to say the moon is the only moon is only important. Moon is definitely important, but you have to look at the other also, but it's the hardest drive. That is why when you come in certain situations, we all behave differently. If there is an accident on the street, I would behave differently, you would behave differently, and maybe another person will look at the blood and they might just faint. One will reach out for the person. One might just call the ambulance. Maybe he's not the one who can give the first aid. But every individual is different, and how is the same situation, is the same event. But how people around are reacting, that is what the nakshatra will tell you, why you behave in such manner.
I think that's such a beautiful explanation. So I think we can round up the interview here. People can have something to digest, to think about, because you've given a lot of in-depth information, more than I could have asked for. So for that, I thank you very much. So Dr. Pai, where can people reach you? What is your website? Where can you be reached?
Currently, I'm not taking any active consultations because I've been overwhelmed, and currently I'm not taking any consultations at the moment. Yeah, randomly, sometimes some of my old clients, I do that for them, but I'm not actively, maybe in a few months, because now I'm more on the research mode. Because see, there's so much to learn, and ultimately what I want to say is it's all about, when you talk about nakshatras, for example, Carmina, I want people to now stop looking at the characteristics and the traits and listening to videos, but imagine that every brain will have these 27 sections. And when certain parts, there are transits happening, certain part of your brain might be activated. Imagine your brain, okay? It's not the same divisions for all of us. So some brain, 27 divisions. Each part of the brain might be one nakshatra. So one space, it might be here, this might be Pushya, okay? This might be Shravana, this might. So understand we need to learn to program and reprogram, because the only resonance and not create any reactions. Because if we create emotions, okay, these emotions are coming because we are harmonically not resonant with our thoughts. My thoughts are influenced because a particular planet is transiting or is activating a particular point in my brain. If I identify what is that, and if we start working collectively as a group and not look at what system you're using, but if we start looking at creating a system where we understand, neuroscience, and we understand nakshatras, we will be able to cure a lot of ailments, and we will be able to heal many people, scientifically, rather than creating a fear psychosis in people, thinking that this is predictive. If I understand this is how this person will feel during these transits, I would know how I can activate that part of the brain. You have the pituitary gland, you have the pineal gland. So there's so many glands in the head. That is why you see Rahu is the head, Ketu is the tail, the rest of the body. Because when you talk about Ketu, it's only sensory pleasure that we understand. We understand pain, we understand suffering. Because the main organs are in the head. My eyes for seeing, for hearing my ears, for smell, my nose, okay, and for speech. If I'm deprived of this part of the body, then I'm a Ketu, because I'm only feeling, because I can only touch. If there's heat, I can understand it's heat. If it is cold, I can understand, but I can't see it, I can't smell it, I can't taste it, I can't hear it. That's why Rahu is what is amplification of, because of your karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas, they're all here. So if I have to really understand, then I have to understand this part, and then for spiritual progress, I would go into detachment of my senses and move more into understanding the Ketu elements, the spirituality, which means it doesn't matter what I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I taste, doesn't matter, because I'm completely becoming immune. That's why Ketu is always associated with the yogis, the sannyasis, the ascetic, the hermits, because they can see the most beautiful flower and they can understand what the flower is, they can appreciate that, but they will never feel it. It's detachment. So my message to everybody is study any system that you want to study with passion, with love for that, and study because you want to help improve somebody's situation, not for prediction. I can be the worst predictor. I cannot care less. But if I can make somebody a better human being, if I can use this vidya, this knowledge to transform somebody's life and help them to become better individuals, and addressing them to move in the better path, I think there is nothing greater. We can't change the karmas. Let us remember this. But I can at least give them the strength and the direction and the mentorship for them to move in a particular direction. I think that is what is the job of an astrologer, is not to break the confidence and not to create weaklings and not to create handicaps, because people will be so much looking into the transits and this. There are too many factors which are influencing. Better to be more self-centered and look at self-improvement. Don't look at what other people are saying and doing. That's their karmas. What you can do, how you can better yourself. I think that is all the science of karmas is, to become, I think, to understand the plan of God and to work with in harmonic resonance.
What a wonderful message, and how excellently you rounded up this science of Jyotish, of knowing yourself and being more in harmony with the world you're living in. And like you said, like the fork resonating.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you understand what the cosmic resonance is at a particular time, if my body resonates with the cosmic resonance, then I'm attuned with it. If I'm in dissonance, even if it is interference, then I'm creating maybe bodily ailments, stress, and all other sort of, ailments today, what we have in the world, pain, suffering, this is why we call it the six, shadripus: kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Pride, ego, lust, anger. All of this is our enemies. We see everything outside and we try to associate them with different planets. They are only coming into your life so that they are trying to see how are you coping up. They are planted. Remember, the director is up there. He's directing the show. We are only actors in this. And we have been given beautiful actors around us. Sometimes they will be in resonance, sometimes they will be in dissonance. But you are in control because you are the main lead in your story. And he's the director. So believe in the director, in the supreme consciousness and the resonance with, I'm not talking about anything to do with religion. I'm talking about the conscious, space and the cosmic resonance I'm talking about. If you're resonating with nature, if you're just with nature, you will understand life much better. You can learn so much from the trees, the plants, and the stones and Mother Earth and the birds and the animals, more from a book. You don't have to go to a book to understand Jyotish. Be in nature and be attuned with nature. Jyotish will come to you. Free flow. Nothing can stop it.
That is such a good, excellent message for everyone out there. And I really thank you very much again. You've given us more than I thought in terms of information. And thank you for sharing everything that you've researched. And I'm looking forward to maybe having you on again another time to discuss more of this wonderful science of Jyotish. So thank you very much, Dr. Pai.
Thank you. Thank you, Carmina ji. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.